Ladies and gentlemen, we are a few minutes after the start time, so we really do need to get started so that we can hear our guests that are here today. So I am going to call the Senate Education Committee meeting to order, and we'll start with, are there any bill introductions? Mr. O'Neill, please introduce yourself and...
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Mike O'Neill, today representing Kansas Policy Institute. We have two bill introductions for you. We request introduction of 22 RS 2539 regarding further amendments to the building needs assessment law based on some of the discussions we had in the interim of this summer. You want me to talk about both of them or take them one at a time?
One at a time.
Right.
Okay, so we have RS 2539. Are there any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept that as a committee bill? A motion from our vice chair. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Sollentrop. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So RS 2539 is accepted. What is your next bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 22 RS 2537 would enact academic curriculum transparency.
Okay. Are there any questions about RS 2537? I'm not saying, did you have a question? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept that? Okay, again, motion from Senator Erickson. Do I have a second? Second from Senator Sollentrop. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is accepted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We will let you know when those are assigned a Senate bill number when we are going to schedule a hearing. Okay. At this time, it is my, I'm sorry. There's no, I'm sorry. Dropping down. It is yesterday's. Yes, we're just continuing from yesterday. But we do have some special guests that are here, and we're going to start with that. So we have Colonel Hester he's our Wichita Director of 17 ROTC programs with 2,400 cadets in the Wichita Junior ROTC. That is fabulous, and we are so excited to have you here today. And let's just go ahead and for photographs, it's fine with me if you come here behind so that you can get some straight-on shots also. So welcome so much.
Okay, thank you, Chair Baumgartner and members of the committee. We are really happy that you invited us to come here because we have a unique program in Wichita that we'd like to tell you about. We started Junior OTC in Wichita in 1994 with 3 Army programs, and then we grew to 8 junior OTC programs in all of our high schools. And in 1997, we're having so much success with the high school junior OTC programs that the Board of Education approved a middle school program based on a junior OTC curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so we started that program in '97 at 4 middle schools. We have 9 middle schools now, and it's just hugely successful. And we want to tell you about that because it's a little unique in junior OTC. This is normally not done, but we've proven that this is a very successful program. We have 2,400 cadets. It is. And most of the cadets, there's 1,400 at the middle school level and 1,000 at the high school. And I have 2 of our cadets that are here this afternoon to tell you about the programs. I've got our cadet colonel, our corps commander. He's the top cadet in the district. Jesse Bartlett. He's in Marine Corps Junior OTC at Northeast Magnet. He's going to talk about junior OTC and leadership, the overall program, because he's responsible for all of the cadets. And then I have Carol Laura. Carol is currently in junior OTC at one of our Air Force programs at East High School. But Carol went through our leadership program at Meade Middle School. She was in that program for 3 years, and I wanted Carol to come here and just talk to you about leadership because it is so unique. And by the way, after we started our program in '97, a congressional delegation from Washington came down and reviewed our program and decided to for the Army to pilot a program similar to our leadership program nationally, and that was accomplished. And there are a number of other school districts across the nation that have started leadership programs based on our model here in Wichita. So I'm going to ask Carol first to come up and talk to you about leadership, and then Jesse Bartlett is going to come and just tell you about junior OTC in Wichita. Thank you. Carol.
Welcome, Carol.
Well, good afternoon, Chairwoman Baumgarten and Senate. So I'm definitely going to talk to you guys about leadership, but before that, I'm going to talk more about myself just so that you guys get to know me a little bit better. I am daughter of 2 Mexican immigrants, so my parents had to migrate here to the U.S., and it was a very hard challenge for them because they had to leave their life behind and just start from zero here. But if there's anything that I've learned from my parents is just keep on going, even if you have no motivation. My mother, she is my best friend, and she's always there for me. She was a college graduate in Mexico, but whenever she moved, nothing passed over. So she started from zero and got her GED. And then my dad, unfortunately, he had to stop going to school in the 5th grade. So he didn't even get to enter middle school. And he had to start working to maintain his family and, you know, pay bills and everything. But he came over to the U.S. and has just been working and making life here. Now, I am daughter of Mexicans, so I speak fluently both English and Spanish. I've been in the JROTC program and leadership program for 6 years. I'm going for 7 years next year. And if there's anything that I can tell you about the leadership program is that it's all the basics. You start from zero, you know, you enter the program and you're just like, what am I doing here? Why did I join this? But, you know, I learned a lot of the basics there. Respect, responsibilities, how to just be a leader, loyalty, integrity was a big one because, you know, there's a lot of kids that don't take the blame. And, you know, something that I've learned being a leader is just, you know, do what's right even if no one's looking, or simply just, you know, okay, well, this person did something wrong, but I am a higher rank. I am going to take the responsibility for them. And currently, I'm Corps Commander at East High. So that was not an easy job to get, but it always comes back to the leadership program. Everything that you learned there, you know, you kind of just think about it and you're like, that is crazy. How it all started when I was 10 years old. I'm 16 years old right now, and you know, I genuinely a lot, I think about how it all began. It all began with a 10-year-old little girl walking into middle school, freaking out because she didn't know what was first floor, what was second floor, left or right, up and down. So I had this amazing instructor. Her name was Major Shelley Harmon, and she had so much confidence in me. She believed in me, and it's crazy how these instructors, they believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. Because they're there, they're like motivating you, they're telling you like, you've got this, you know, don't be scared, you know, you're gonna be freaking out, but you're going to do amazing. And in those times where you can't even trust yourself or believe in yourself, your own instructors are there to kind of just like push you and be like, you're fine, you're okay, you've got this. And, you know, I like can't believe how much or how far I've came just with that simple program in middle school, because, you don't really think that a small decision of joining a class is going to lead you to where you are today. A lot of the decisions are crazy. You're like, oh, if I would have done this differently, would I even be here today? I genuinely think back, okay, if I would have done band or choir or orchestra, would I be the leader that I am today? Would I be the commander that I am today? Would I be able to take responsibility without a doubt? Probably not. I'd still probably be shy or not confident. I'm pretty sure that if we go back 6 years, I wouldn't be standing up here. I would have zero public speaking skills, and I'd just be in the shadows. So that program definitely, it pushes you out of your comfort zone. It's meant to be hard. These programs, they show you exactly what you're supposed to be looking forward to. They have no commitment. Whenever you sign up for these programs, you don't sign up thinking, oh, I'm going to join the military, or I have to join the military. It's nothing like that. But it's just teaching you how to be a good citizen. It teaches you, respect your elders, make sure you're kind, if someone's talking, you listen. You always have your opportunities. You always have time, you make time. And if there's anything that I've learned is, just don't regret anything, because mistakes happen, but it's in the past. You just learn and you move forward. You don't let it knock you down, because that's kind of like whenever you push yourself back. And, joining this program, it definitely helped me choose a future, being 10 years old, not knowing what I wanted to do, if I wanted to go to college, if I was just gonna join the military, if I was gonna go straight to work. This program has definitely helped me with guidance, because it's not just join the military. It also gives you the opportunity of, do you want to go to college? Do you want to continue the program in college and be a ROTC cadet in college? And goes on to my future. I definitely believe that the program helped me decide that I want to join the military. It's not fully decided yet, because I am a junior in high school. I got time to think about it. I'm for sure going Air Force. Don't know if I want to go Air Guard or Air Force Reserved or just fully on active. But I have two amazing options for job-wise. I can either be a combat medic or a combat engineer. And that's kind of the decisions that help with, or that this program helps. It helps you decide these huge decisions that you're going to eventually look back onto, and you're just like, that is crazy. I started in high school thinking about these decisions, and eventually during life, you're just going to think about it, and you're not going to regret it, because there's always things that you're like, oh, I could have done better, or I could have done this differently, but it makes you reflect. And that's something really good. You genuinely reflect. And you think a lot. It's crazy. But thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me.
I'm going to move this up a little bit. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you so much for having us here today. It's a tremendous honor and a privilege to be here. As Colonel Hester said, I'm Cadet Colonel Jesse Bartlett. I'm a senior at Northeast Magna High School, and I'm the Corps Commander of the Wichita JROTC and Leadership Programs, which essentially means I'm in charge of all 2,400 cadets that we have in our program at 8 high schools and 9 middle schools. A couple of things that I do at Northeast besides JROTC include National Honor Society, band, as well as theater, which is somewhat surprising, but I've been in JROTC for all 4 years of my high school career, as well as 3 years that I spent in the leadership program at Brooks Middle School. And after high school, I plan on enlisting in the Kansas Air National Guard as an aerospace medical serviceman and majoring in gaining a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry at the University of Kansas. And as a representative of the Corps staff, which consists of myself, the Deputy Commander, and the Corps Sergeant Major, we kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it is we do in JROTC, and I'm going to specifically talk about how we mold normal individuals like myself into the leaders that we are. And JROTC personally made me from a naive and very, what were the words I had? Like a very naive, very self-centered, rebellious individual into the man and the leader that is worthy of the position that I have today. And so JROTC does this in 2 phases, sort of. Our first phase starts your LET 1 year, and we kind of teach you the template of being a leader. And so as your LET 1 or your first year, you are taught things that will help you become a better leader, but also things that are practical for the adult workforce. Some of those include learning the 14 leadership traits, which include traits such as justice, integrity, enthusiasm, bearing, courage, things of those sorts, common military courtesies, military history, as well as more practical things such as how to prepare for a job interview and how to deal with stress. And let me see. And so we build this base of a leader, and for the next 3 years you're in the program, you're LET 2, 3, and 4 year, we take that template and we mold you into that leader, and that starts by giving you command of your cadets. And so my personal molding period began, that was loud, my personal period began when I was appointed as the squad leader of 3rd Squad, 1st Platoon, as a cadet lance corporal, my LET 2 year. I was in charge of around 10 people, and after learning a little bit and gaining and aging and gaining many lessons, I was appointed to be the platoon sergeant of 1st Platoon Bravo Company, my LET 3 year, just before I went to the Corps Command Selection Board and became a colonel. So. And I mean, I understand that my story doesn't end there, but you get my point. JROTC really takes this template of a leader, and with that template in mind, they really shape you into a leader who is impartial in their decisions and treats their subordinates with the highest respect above their own. Now, JROTC personally helped me become a better leader in 2 ways, and it helped me gain some confidence in myself, and it gave me a sense of discipline. Before JROTC, I was very shy, and I kept to myself, mostly because I didn't really have many friends, and whenever I tried to make them, I was usually picked on. I was involved in many extracurriculars, and whenever I was really in the background. I tried to be in the spotlight, but I didn't really have much of that confidence. And for the majority of middle school, I actually suffered from a low self-esteem, and I suffered a lot with issues regarding mental health. And, I was not a very behaved student, I will tell you that. I can remember every other day, it was usually visiting one of the vice principal's offices, but every now and again, I would have to sit in Senator Erickson's office when she was a principal over at my middle school. And I got in trouble mostly because I didn't see.
Not to name any names there.
Not to name any names. But I got in trouble mostly because I didn't see any purpose in following the rules. And however, JROTC really taught me to respect those in authority. And with that came playing by their rules. And after being in the program for a while and after a couple of promotions, I gained that confidence, and it got me back into things that I loved, and such as theater and band and choir for a little bit, actually. So looking back, I can see the many ways that JROTC has given me the skills necessary to act and overcome difficult situations in both my public and in my private life, and I know it has definitely changed my life and several other cadets that I know for the better. I would like to thank you all for your time, and at this time, we would like to open the floor up for questions for either me, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Lara, or Colonel Hester.
Wow. Okay. Well, first off, let's just go ahead and have the 3 of you just up at the podium. Because I have to say, Jesse and Carol, you just are quite amazing in your stories that you shared with us, the poise that you have at such a young age. I don't know, I can see Wichita, you guys couldn't be more proud, could you, Colonel, of these young students?
I would just like to say, I spent 27 years on active duty. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the military. I thought that I would never move into another assignment or field that I would that I would enjoy as much as I did in the Army. My commander, when I talked to him, he recommended that I get into junior ROTC, and I did that 25 years ago, and I can see now that I was mistaken because it was just, I get immense satisfaction at working with all these young students and seeing them change. I've known Carol since 6th grade, and yeah, and I've seen, and she has grown so much in that time. And I've just there are so many other cadets that I have the same experience with. So it's really it's a very fulfilling thing that I'm involved in, and I can see the difference that it makes in our cadets and students.
Very good. So Carol and Jesse, just starting off, could you tell us a little bit about how much time you spend per week on this, and how has that been impacted these last 2 years with COVID?
So, JROTC is an elective that we take in our high schools. So I have it 4 days a week just because of block scheduling. I can't have it every day, but I feel like really it's definitely impacted us. We've had, especially during COVID, I know the core staff last year really dealt a lot with having all the closures. They couldn't really do any of the stuff that we could, but I feel like really the core staff this year, we've gone with trying to open up really, like really what we used to do before COVID. Things such as the Veterans Day Parade and the Veterans Day Ceremony, the Superintendent's breakfast. Oh, wait, we did that last year. Never mind. But just other events that we couldn't have because everybody was masked. Everybody was so nervous about getting this virus. And so now that we get to open it up and do more, it makes me very happy.
I am so sorry. I have to lower this for you guys. So I have JROTC 5 times a week, and sometimes even on the weekend, depending on if we have extra events to go to. But just like Bartlett said, it is an extracurriculum class that we can take, and I'm pretty sure he spends a lot more time than I do because he is city corps commander. But I am the corps commander at Wichita East High, and with that responsibility comes a lot more time that I have to put in compared to other regular cadets. Yeah, so pretty much, you know, drill is an extra activity that we do. Color guard is an extra activity that we do. We've introduced the new idea of archery into our program, and that will be starting in February. At least practices will begin in February, and hopefully competitions will be in April, if I'm right around there.
Tell the committee about the superintendent's breakfast.
Oh, gosh. Scariest moment of my life. I had never speak in front of a lot of people. So the superintendent's breakfast is a simple breakfast, simple kind of. So it's just a breakfast that we do with our Board of Education in Wichita, Kansas. It's also just an opportunity for a lot of important people to come together and listen to how our cadets inside the district have like grown and their experiences, what they've learned. Different types of topics are given to each cadet. And my topic was about leadership and how it has molded me into the leader that I am today in JROTC.
Committee, what questions do you have for them? We'll start with, actually, we'll just go around the table. Everybody gets a chance, though. We do need to be able to spend a little bit of time after we've gone around the table to start working on our legislative bill.
So we'll all be really quick. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and it's so hard for me not to just want to clap. As a former teacher, especially, and mother of 4 children who see such accomplished children, puts a lump in my throat, and I think it's terrific. And thank you so much for being here. My only question is, how often do you wear these uniforms at school?
Well, this specific uniform, we don't wear it that often. This is more of a formal uniform. We call it specifically the dress blue Bravos is what I'm wearing. But we, for our inspections, we have them once a week. This is for every unit around the district. I don't know how other schools do it, but at Northeast, we usually wear our digital uniform, which is our utility uniform. I know some of the Air Force programs and the Army programs, they usually do more of the uniform that Laura's wearing, but I wouldn't know, so I'll have her explain that.
Okay, so each school should have 3 different types of uniforms, or at least I know that the Air Force has 3 different types of uniforms. We have our Class A, which is our service dress. We have Class Bs, which are zip-up jackets, pretty much the same thing, just different type of jacket. And then we have our ABUs, or OCPs, how other people, or the Army branch would call it. And at East High, what we do is the second and the last week of each month, we get an optional choice of if you want to wear your blues, which are your blue uniforms, or your ABUs. And every other week, you could either wear your Class A or your Class B. It's not necessarily a requirement to wear your Class A or Class B on certain days. It just depends. If there's an important event like our Veterans Day ceremony that we had, that is an important event and everyone is required to wear Class A. But unless it's just a regular day, unless it's required, you wear whichever uniform you want, unless it's the second or fourth.
We wear the uniform once a week.
Senator Petty.
I know that there are others that have lots more questions to ask, but I just want to thank you for being here. And I do represent a lot of the Kansas School District, and several of our schools have our OTC as well. It's been a great opportunity for them.
Senator Sullendrop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to you both. I'm very impressed, and I'm very impressed that you have 2,400 students participating. Being born in the 50s, growing up in the 60s and 70s, the military back then was kind of despised. We had some really tough times going through this country at that time. So our peers were not very supportive of the military in general. What's the attitude today? How do your peers react to you? Are they generally supportive, or do they just do not involve themselves? Give me an idea.
Well, first of all, that's a really good question. Thank you for bringing that to the table. And I'm understanding some of the military history. I see where you're coming from. I think, or at least for me, I'm kind of seen as, I mean, I'm not considered an outcast by any means, but I'm considered one of the, or in several other cadets that I know, we're considered more of like the lucky few, sort of. It's kind of hard to explain. It would be like more, like we're not like outcasts, right? We're just like more, but we're still not, we're not with the other peers. We obviously set ourselves apart, and we want to make sure that we look the best of the best at all times. So, I mean, if you want to add on to that a little bit.
Kind of like Jesse said, we're not really seen differently, but everybody has their own opinion, and depending on the type of person they are, just depends on how they react. But a lot of kids just, they respect us, and that's simply what we ask, basic common human interaction.
Senator Erickson.
Wow. Those of you who have taught and been in education know this is what it's about. This is what is the big reward. I have seen firsthand the impact of this program, and I cannot overstate its positive benefit on the school culture, on the students that participate and interact. And I think, Colonel Hester, you probably spent more time in my office. There was a time when we weren't sure the program was going to survive at the school I was at, and boy, Colonel Hester hung in there with me, because anyone who's had this program in their school can attest to the impact it makes. And Jesse, I couldn't be more proud of you and Carol. And I'd just like to say, Colonel Hester, I don't know if Wichita knows the treasure it has in you and the impact you have made. Sir, you deserve the credit. I don't. I wish I could take credit for Jesse here today, but it is because of you and the impact you've made on so many students like Jesse. And I would just like to say thank you. And committee, if you have not had the opportunity to attend a JROTC competition, it is as high quality and as exciting as any sporting event. So if you get that opportunity, I would encourage you to do that. And thank you for being here today.
Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. Every time I get to see our youth today, it makes me more optimistic of our future. So very much with both of your testimonies. My question for you, we have individual plans of study, and you found your moment in ROTC. Yeah, sorry. My son found it in Scholars Bowl. But my question is to you, you chose to do this, you gave up other electives, but what has that done for the other courses that you have chosen? Did it challenge you more to take a harder math class or different things and preparing you for the future?
Well, first of all, that's a really good question. Yes, it definitely has changed the way that I've looked, not only through my academics, but through life. And I kind of explained that a little bit of how I didn't really treat, I put academics at a high standard early on, and I tried to keep my grades up, but it gave me the sense of respect for not only just my fellow students, but for my teachers as well, because they had to go through people like me every day, and it was not good for those people. And so I feel like, yes, it gave me a lot of respect for my teachers as well, and putting them at a higher sense of authority in my mind. So
Yeah, similar to Jesse here. Just teachers generally respect you a little bit more. Another thing that I've noticed is that teachers trust you a lot. Like, last semester I took this one class, and my teacher was like, "Oh, you're a JRTC kid. I know I could trust you." So he was like, "Hey, I have this work that needs to be done, and there's this group that just doesn't get their work done. I was wondering if you could go encourage them to get their work done." So teachers genuinely rely on you a little bit more, just because they know that you've been through the basics of just working together, making it through.
Senator, I'd just like to give you one example. We had a cadet, she graduated 6 years ago. Her name's Kelly Wynn. Kelly, she started our program at 6th grade. She is at Robinson at pre-IB, went to East High School. She is in the IB program. Kelly, she was our deputy corps commander her last year. She is always in a leadership position at East High School. We have an extensive extracurricular program for junior ROTC, and Kelly, she never missed anything. And I talked to Kelly and asked her, and she maintained good grades in the IB program. How was she able to do everything that she did, to include taking piano lessons every week? And she said, I try to get 3 to 4 hours sleep every night. It was important to her enough that she sacrificed her time so that she could maintain good grades, be successful in junior ROTC. And Kelly ended up at the Air Force Academy, and she was commissioned 2 years ago. She's a first lieutenant now, and she is a very successful young lady that is successful because of junior ROTC, but she was able to do all the things that we ask of her and still keep her grades up in all of her other academic areas. And she's just an example. And there's a lot of other cadets that are the same way. When you challenge them and you put requirements on them that if they want to be on the drill team, then they have to keep their grades up. Well, they will do that. And it's shown to be pretty successful in Wichita.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing your stories, and keep up the great work. And I guess every time you have the opportunity to talk to your colleagues, encourage them to have that discipline, which is absolutely what you have. So thank you.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be brief, but thank you both for being here, and you as well. Honestly, it's always so inspiring to see the kinds of programs that we have in our schools and the difference that it makes in the lives of our students. I've been lucky enough to be associated with JROTC programs over the years, and I see kids that just, they thrive when they get this opportunity, and you obviously have. So thank you for all that you've done, the leadership that you've shown, and you really are an inspiration to other students. So thank you for being here today, and you did an excellent job. Nicely done. Thank you.
Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank all of you for being here today. I just have one question. All of you have quite the stack of awards. Could you tell me what is the most special to you, and what did you do? What did you have to do to achieve it?
You go on it. You have more ribbons than I do.
Me, I have to look real quick. Yikes, that's crazy. Yeah, a lot of the times I earned ribbons, and I was just like, that's, why am I winning these again? Because, like, you know, you've just been so used to, like, the basic things that you learned back in leadership that you, like, do the common things that you learn without even realizing it. But my favorite ribbon would either be one of the top two. The main important one is always close to your heart, top left, or top right. It's the Revolutionary of the American, or Daughters of the American Revolution, or the top performer. And I've earned both of these ribbons just by being selected from my whole unit at East High. You kind of just get picked, and you have to work for these ribbons. You have to kind of like shine over everyone else and like prove yourself. Hey, you had the opportunity to win this ribbon, and instructors and maybe even Colonel Hester, they pick certain cadets to be like, okay, well, this person deserves this ribbon because they've just been, like, you can tell that they've put in not only 100%, but 150%.
Personally, I think my favorite one is this one right here. This is the Outstanding Cadet Award. This is the highest award that you can gain from your unit at JROTC. Besides National Leadership Awards, which would be the Daughters of the American Revolution, or the two that I have right here. But these ones this one I actually worked really hard to get, and that was because I was on the honorary LET 3 and 4 board my junior year, my LET 3 year, and I also received that for being on the Corps Command Selection Board, which got me this rank that I have. And so I feel like I've put in the most work for this ribbon, and that's why I feel like it's my favorite. So,
Again, we want to thank you so much for being here today. When Bill Brady contacted me before session even started and said, I have some students that could come up from Wichita and share their story. Can you find time? I said, absolutely. You tell me the day, and we want to meet them. We want to hear from them. And what a gift you've given us this afternoon for sharing your story. So we wish you well for the rest of this school year. We wish you well for your future endeavors. And we absolutely hope that you have safe travels back to Wichita. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story. And I just want everyone to join us. They do deserve a tremendous round of applause. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, thank you and the committee once more for just allowing us to share some time with you to tell you about our program.
It's an important story. Thank you. I hope that your story helps inspire some others to participate. Thank you. Committee, we are going to pivot, and it's going to be a hard pivot. because we have work to do. And so I'm going to ask you to, I did ask you to take those spreadsheets home, spend a little time with them. And so I'm just going to ask you to, let's just kind of get started in going through, through what we have. And let's see. So you have two spreadsheets. One was shared to us by the Board of Regents, and the other was shared with us by, let's see, this came from ks.gov. So if you look at page 9 of that ks.gov spreadsheet, it looks like this. And that just steps us right through the changes. And so I think we'll just start going through the changes, and if there's questions or clarification. And so let's start with, first one is just a clarification of the definition for part-time. I think there were some concerns about what really constituted a part-time student, and this simply clarifies that it doesn't matter when they started the program, which semester, which term, just to be, no matter when they started in part-time, that definition of the 6 hours. So let's go to the next one is the section 1B4 and section 2C1A. This is clarifying that all programs within a field of study designated by the college are eligible for promised scholarship awards. Now, at this point, I think at this point, I am not seeing that there is any request for change from the Board of Regents on that matter. Go ahead. Scott, step forward and introduce yourself and talk to us a bit about that section 1 and section 2 change.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Baumgartner. My name is Scott Smathers. I'm the Vice President of Workforce Development for the Board of Regents. The only clarification we had, we're fine with changing it to a field of study. That's fine from our part. The only question we had was in the reading yesterday, the way it was described was and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the colleges could choose one of the 5 programs, or if they have another high demand or high wage program in another field of study, they could choose one of those. They could choose that field of study. And we were under the impression, which may or may not be right, that the committee was asking that the colleges, if they were choosing an extra field of study, would want the people to choose one in one of those 5 areas that you had identified, the ag or whatever, but that to do so, they would need to have a high wage, high demand program. And as I say, we're fine either way. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page going forward, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
I guess I'm not understanding what the concern is, but let's go ahead and have Tamara speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we're looking at section 3 with his comments. And this section has to do with the educational institutions choosing those fields of study and the requirements for those institutions to choose those. And the way that I described it yesterday is that it could either be from that list that's contained in there or a high demand critical need option. And there's a little uncertainty as to whether that's the proper interpretation. So the committee will need to clarify whether that's supposed to be you get to choose one additional field of study that contains both of those requirements, or those are two separate options to choose. Is that?
I think that's a good way to put it.
So, Scott, can you give us an example of what you're thinking might occur?
Sure. I'll give you an example. My understanding was, and I'm going to, well, let's take culinary. Some of the culinary programs are a high demand program, but they are not listed in one of the 5 fields of study that you had. So would, for instance, if somebody wanted to say, well, I want to take and make hospitality the field of study that we want to choose as the option because they have a culinary program that qualifies as a high demand program, that would then allow them to, if you use it as an or, they could then choose hospitality as their additional field of study, which is, once again, that's, we're fine however you all want to do it. We just want to make sure we're all understanding it. Or are you wanting them to focus on just the 5 fields of study included in the list that were provided, the 5 additional fields of study that were included in the bill?
Okay, well, first of all, when I think of this issue of high demand, it's not, is that program a high demand at the institution? The issue is there a high demand for those jobs that result from that training? So it's not, is a high demand to get into that program.
Absolutely, and we qualify high demand based off of the Department of Labor, from Kansas Department of Labor. So that's how we're identifying high demand programs. And I apologize if I misspoke with the way I was trying to explain that.
Okay, so you are going to want a clarification, and, you know, interestingly enough, I'm not, so the way that it is built right now and the way in which that issue of field of study versus program.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the language for that 5th category said program rather than field of study.
Correct.
But even those individual programs did have to be submitted to the Board of Regents for approval.
Yes, ma'am.
It went through that process, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so are you not anticipating that it would go through the similar process as far as now when we change it from program to field of study, that again, there would be that same review process?
Absolutely, but of course the review process is pretty direct and basic when you've already identified the additional 5 fields of study. So that's pretty much, well, it's in the statute, so we can review it, but they're still going to qualify, which is great. As I said, we are fine however you want to go. I guess really the bottom line is, if somebody wants to choose a field of study that is outside of those 5 an optional field of study that is outside of those 5 that you have listed in the statute, our only question is, should we consider granting that? Because they most likely, if they're choosing it, probably will have a program in it that will be classified by our department, Kansas Department of Labor, as a high demand or high wage program, and then they would qualify if it's an or situation, or if you say no, if you're going to choose one of your additional field of study, it must be in one of the 5 areas as defined in the statute. That would be how we would look at it.
I'd like to hear from our community colleges, and if we have something from the technical colleges. Is Jim listening in?
I don't know. From the community college perspective, the reason those 5 fields were chosen, where they were chosen off what they call the KTIP report at KBOR, which is a survey of all the technical programs, since this scholarship is more focused on the 2-year sector. So I'll give you the example not of culinary, but of business. So what if a college wanted their other area of study to be business and accounting? Accountants are awfully hard to find in some of our small communities. So they could say, well, my accounting program is a high wage, high demand field. Is that the intention of the legislature? So my reading of the bill was the program was supposed to be in one of those things that's listed, and it needs to be high wage, high demand, because we're trying to focus on the technical program areas, not gen ed and transfer degrees and those sorts of things. But that's how the list got in there, is it's off the KTIP report. Everybody knows what falls under what through the Kansas Board of Regents KTIP report.
Jim, are you there? Did you want to
Yes,
weigh in on this?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Tamara's explanation is what we would support. Some institutions in their region are going to have some things that don't fit in those 5, but are needed in the region. We're an example with engineering tech and critical environment tech that supports NBAF and the animal health corridor. And some institutions may have something that's more regional specific to that, and it's an emerging area. So from the tech college perspective, we support how Tamara explained it, where it gives us a potential option outside of those 5 to meet something that matters in our region for economic and workforce development.
Committee, do you have any questions about? Yes, Senator Erickson. Did you have one also? Senator Erickson, then Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess my question is, again, what I raised yesterday was program versus field of study. So the example of the culinary arts, making that field of study hospitality includes hotel management and other areas that may not be a high demand, high wage area, such as culinary. So those would be brought in as well, even though they don't qualify. So how do we anticipate addressing that? Thank you, Madam Chair.
So Jim, did you want to respond to that? And then Heather or Matt?
Yeah, or Scott might as well, because I think the way I would interpret that, the answer to that question is that the field of study is broader, but we're going to propose a program that's much narrower, where the regions are going to review it to make sure it qualifies by their analysis of the data on high wage, high demand, or critical need. But the field of study is a more broad category that is often used for data gathering purposes.
Yes, to clarify how we would.
Please introduce yourself so that
I'm sorry.
we know who's speaking.
I apologize. This is Scott Smathers again from the Kansas Board of Regents. The way we would address it is, once a field of study is selected, every program that falls under that field of study qualifies. So even in the existing 4 fields of study that were already in the Act, every program offered by a college, whether they be high wage, high demand, that fell within those 4 fields, healthcare and early childhood and everything, all of those programs qualify then that are offered at the college. So when we go to an optional field of study, if they chose hospitality, every program that fell under that field of study would then be included in as a qualified program.
Follow up, if I may.
You may.
So then I would ask, what is the intent of the Promise Act? Is it to provide much needed workers in those high demand areas if we're funding areas that aren't high demand because they fall under a field of study?
My understanding is it's to primarily provide workers in these high demand areas. However, there are some critical need or important programs that are not necessarily high demand that are good for our economy. For instance, when you get into an advanced manufacturing program, it might include some areas that are not considered high demand or even high wage programs, but yet they could be of great value when you're dealing with, for instance, some of the manufacturing technology that Jim mentioned or things like that. They could still possibly qualify in those particular areas.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be for Tamara. So on page 2, section 2, those are our 4 initial categories. And then in section 3, where we have the list of agriculture, that's what in conference we amended that the program could add within those. Is that, no?
So you are correct about those 4 initial programs on page 2. Those are the ones that those fields of study already are in law, and those programs qualify. If you look on page 4, which is in section 3, those 5 that are listed starting in line 17, those would be added fields of study that the institution could choose one of those to qualify for this scholarship program.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And just to know where we were coming from last year when we added that in conference, what was the language that we're changing?
So last year in conference, what was added was the institution could choose an additional program as long as it was the high wage, high demand, or critical need. That was last year what was brought in conference, and the changes in this bill would, depending on which way your policy goes, one, it would expand it to field of study instead of just one program. So that would include all the programs under that field of study. And the question we're kind of asking here is it always only limited to those 5 areas, or could an institution choose a field of study outside those 5 areas if it still met those high demand, high wage, critical need areas? And that's a policy decision for you all. We're having a little bit of an interpretation issue, and we want to get that clarified.
Thank you. And this may be for the chair. So agriculture, food, and natural services, those are from the Department of Labor. That's where we came up with those 5? Or, okay. Heather.
Those were out of, Heather Morgan, the community colleges, those were out of the KTIP report, and there are some other fields in the KTIP report, like hospitality, that was specifically not put into the bill for some of the reasons Senator Erickson, I think, is raising. So I think that as we tried to compromise on this bill, you can choose one other area, here are the areas, and we certainly hope that they're the most high wage, high demand, critical need jobs, and you're choosing that area, other area from that list, because if you can just choose anything, the bill needs to be cleaned up, and we need to take that list out, because that list is essentially, why have a list if you can do anything? So we were interpreting it from this list, choose one, and then hopefully choose the one that has the most high wage, high demand programs in it that we need students and workers.
Oh, did you have a follow-up? I'm sorry.
Just a follow-up. Yeah, so I think, and just this is the original discussions, as we were talking about this, at one point, we were talking about each institution may or may not have different high critical need areas in those institutions. So I think just for conversation for this committee to look at, because Johnson County may have very different needs than Garden City. And whereas if we put all of these, I think we need to have something that's tying it to those areas of study and the needs in those areas. Thank you.
In the community? Okay. So we have Senator Petty, and I just looked at the clock, and we are not pro forma, so we do need to finish and get on the floor.
Actually, mine was the same. If we're talking about high need specific to that area, it seems like it's.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do so that on Monday, when we return to work on this, I'll have identified particular areas as we move forward, and we're just going to go page by page. So make sure that you have your copy of the bill so that we can work from that. I think that will work better than trying to use the spreadsheets, because the one that we got from the regents doesn't really tie in with the one that we got from KACCT, unless between now and then, you guys can come up with short lists as far as issues that you really need hammered out. Does that help, Scott? Okay. Committee, thank you for your attention today, and we are adjourned.